They say the attic holds the past, but no one warned us it might bite back. I only went up there to find an old photo. What I found instead could tear our family apart. I hadn't been back to the Marlowe house in over 12 years. The gravel crunched beneath the tires of my rental car like bones being chewed, the sound as cold and brittle as the October air around me. The trees lining the driveway had begun to rot from the inside out. My grandmother used to say you could tell the truth of a place by the state of its roots. I parked next to a weathered truck I didn't recognize, already regretting every decision that brought me here. But I owed her that much. Gran had raised us after Mom left. She hadn't deserved to die alone. The front porch groaned under my boots as I stepped up, suitcase in one hand, the other brushing against the railing, flaking with white paint. The smell of old wood, damp leaves, and something faintly sour clung to the air. That same musty, uneasy scent that used to make me sneeze as a kid was stronger now, like the house was slowly decaying from the inside out, just like us. The front door creaked open before I could knock. "You made it," Clara said, arms crossed over her navy cardigan, eyes cool and sharp as glass. "Clara Marlowe, my younger sister by 3 years." Always the polished one. Even now she looked like she'd stepped out of a grief-themed magazine spread. We hadn't spoken much beyond texts in the last few years, and even those were clinical, obligatory. She hugged me briefly, stiffly, like I was a coworker and not someone she once shared a bunk bed with. "Of course I made it," I said. "She was my grandmother, too." I wasn't sure if you still thought of her that way. That was Clara, always a dagger, even when she smiled. I shrugged off the comment and stepped into the house. Inside, everything felt smaller. The ceilings, the rooms, even the ghosts. And then there was Ben. He popped out of the kitchen, flour on his hands and a confused expression wrinkling his forehead. "Jamie?" I grinned despite myself. "Hey, troublemaker." Ben was the youngest, 24 now, and somehow the only one of us who didn't look like he'd been hit by the ears. His curly brown hair was pulled back in a loose bun, and he was barefoot, as usual. He was always the sensitive one, quiet, artistic, intuitive in ways that used to scare Mom and impress Gran. He wrapped me in a real hug, warm and grounding. "I didn't know if you'd show," he mumbled into my shoulder. "Yeah, well, I didn't either." There wasn't much of a reunion, no speeches, no awkward dinner, no shared memories passed around like funeral food, just silence and the occasional clink of silverware. Gran's urn sat on the mantel like a quiet observer. None of us seemed ready to speak her name aloud. Later that night, I wandered through the dim hallways with a mug of black coffee and a head full of echoes. The floorboards remembered my footsteps better than I did. Dust clung to every surface like a second skin. I passed the bedroom I used to share with Ben, the faded wallpaper still peeling in the corners. At the end of the hall, the attic door loomed above me like a judgment. Clara never let us go up there. Gran said it was off limits. Ben used to whisper that something was locked away up there, like it was haunted or cursed or worse. But tonight, something was different. The hallway was colder near the attic door, and something sat on the small wooden stool beneath it, a tarnished bronze key. I picked it up, feeling the weight of it settle into my palm like it had been waiting for me. "Don't," Clara's voice said behind me. I turned, surprised she was still awake. Her eyes were heavy but alert. She looked older than I remembered, even under the soft yellow light. "Don't what?" She gestured at the key. "That door's been shut for a reason. Leave it be." "You think Gran left this key here by accident?" She never mentioned it. "Maybe she wanted us to find it." Clara's lips thinned. "Or maybe she wanted it to stay buried." Ben emerged from his room in boxers and a hoodie, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Are we going in the attic?" he asked, his voice still raspy from sleep. I looked at both of them. "We should." Clara shook her head and disappeared back into her room, muttering something about the past never staying dead. But Ben stood beside me like he'd been waiting for this his whole life. Together we climbed the narrow steps, the air thickening with each step, the scent turning sour, old paper, mold, something metallic beneath it all. The attic hadn't been touched in decades. Cobwebs clung like curtains, boxes piled haphazardly in corners, and at the far end, under a stained quilt, was a trunk. The air felt electric. I knelt and lifted the lid. Inside were old drawings, children's crayon scrawls of figures with dark eyes and too many teeth. Notes written in a shaky hand. One stood out. Penny screams at night, "Don't tell Mom, don't tell Clara. Hide in the blue closet." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. The paper trembled in my hand. "Who drew these?" I whispered. Ben crouched beside me, his face pale. "This one has your name on it." "Look." Sure enough, the next page was labeled, "Jamie, age 7. I didn't remember drawing it. But I remembered the blue closet, the one in Elijah's old room, our uncle, the one no one ever talked about, the one who'd run away. I looked at Ben. "Do you remember Elijah?" He nodded slowly, barely. "But sometimes I dream about him, like he's still here." We both jumped as a floorboard creaked behind us. Clara stood at the top of the stairs, arms wrapped tightly around herself. "You shouldn't have opened it," she said. "Why?" I asked. "What don't you want us to know?" She stared at the trunk like it was a coffin. "Because he didn't run away," she whispered. The air left the room. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. The attic silence seemed to suck all the warmth from my lungs. Clara stood frozen near the top of the stairs, her arms locked around herself like they were the only thing holding her together. Her voice, brittle and thin, barely carried across the room. I blinked at her, my throat dry. "What did you say?" She didn't move, didn't look at me, just stared at the trunk like it might open its jaws and swallow us whole. Ben stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Clara, what do you mean he didn't run away?" She closed her eyes for a moment, then she sighed, slowly, like something she'd been holding in her chest for far too long was leaking out whether she wanted it to or not. "I was 6 when it happened," she said. "Too young to understand everything, but not too young to remember." Ben and I both froze. "You remember something about Elijah?" I asked. Clara nodded. "I remember the night he disappeared. I remember hearing yelling, thuds, then silence, and Gran. Crying, not loud, just this awful, breathless kind of crying. I was hiding in the hallway. I don't think they saw me." I walked toward her slowly, careful not to spook whatever part of her had finally started to speak. "What did you see?" She swallowed. Dad had blood on his shirt. He and Gran were in the kitchen. She kept asking what he'd done. He said it was punishment, that Elijah was corrupted, drawing horrible things, saying evil things. He said it wasn't his fault. I glanced back at the drawings from the trunk, those awful twisted figures with hollow eyes. I remembered Gran burning a bunch of papers one night in the fireplace when she thought we were asleep. I remembered asking where Elijah had gone and being told he ran away. Don't bring it up again. Why didn't you ever tell us this? Ben asked quietly. I thought I imagined it, Clara said, or dreamed it. Gran made sure we never talked about it. And the older I got, the more I told myself it didn't happen. Maybe he really did run away. But you knew something was wrong, I said. I did, she admitted. But I was a scared little kid, Jamie. And Gran, she made me promise never to mention it. My fingers curled around the edge of the trunk. So we all just forgot him. Ben moved to the far end of the attic, where a warped dresser leaned awkwardly against the wall. Not all of us. What are you? I started, but Ben was already sliding it aside. Behind it was a panel slightly misaligned. There's space behind here, he said. He pried at the panel with his fingers. With a soft pop, it loosened and fell away. Inside the hollow was a small tin box, rusted and sealed with old masking tape. We pulled it out carefully and opened it. Inside, a single cassette tape, labeled in thick, shaky block letters. Elijah, July 8, and just beneath the label, Jamie, my name, written in a child's scrawl. I stared at it, heart hammering. I don't remember this. Ben met my eyes. But you made it. We took the tape downstairs to the den. Gran's old cassette player was still sitting on the bookshelf, dusty but intact. Ben plugged it in, and I pressed play, static. Then, my voice, impossibly young, quivering. This is Jamie, July 8th. I'm hiding in the blue closet. I think something bad happened. Dad's mad. Elijah was crying. He said Elijah was evil. I heard something fall. I think Elijah's gone. I think Dad hurt him. There was a long, shaking breath. Then the tape clicked off. My stomach dropped. I staggered back, unable to tear my eyes from the player. Clara looked like she'd stopped breathing. Ben sat back heavily on the couch, hands over his face. Jesus Christ. I recorded that, I whispered. I knew something happened, but I blocked it out. Clara sank into the armchair. Gran must have hidden it. Maybe she thought one day we'd need the truth. We sat in stunned silence for what felt like hours. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway sounded like a countdown. Finally, Ben spoke. We have to go to the police. Clara didn't respond. Her eyes were locked on the fireplace. You agree, right? He pressed. I don't want to, she said slowly. But yes, we can't pretend anymore. That night we made the call. The investigation began the next morning. They brought dogs, forensic teams, crime scene specialists. Days passed in a blur of questions and memories I wished I could unremember. Then they found him. Beneath the garden patio, concrete that had been poured just weeks after Elijah ran away. Our father was arrested in Ohio, retired, remarried, living in a tidy suburban home like he hadn't buried a child decades ago. He didn't deny it, didn't fight it, just said he was a danger to the rest of you. I did what I had to do. The trial was short. The evidence, the tape, the drawings, the bone fragments was enough. He's in prison now. We buried what remained of Elijah under a maple tree on the property, near where he used to build forts out of branches. No headstone, just a small hand-carved wooden plaque Ben made, etched with his name and the words, "Not forgotten." Afterward, we sat on the porch steps in silence, watching the wind stir the leaves. Clara leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you think Gran wanted this all to come out? I think she wanted peace, I said, but she didn't know how to get it. And us? We earned it. Ben wandered down the path to the tree and placed one of Elijah's old drawings, one that wasn't full of monsters, against the trunk. A little boy in a field, smiling. Holding a kite. The attic's empty now. The trunk is gone. The dust cleared. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the sound of floorboards creaking above me. Not out of fear anymore, but remembrance. A reminder that the past isn't gone. It just waits in the dark until you're brave enough to look. The end. Comment what stories you want to hear next. Subscribe to FryyDaee on YouTube for the full videos. Thanks for watching.